Ladies and gentlemen, I am not alone. I got my two co-hosts back. They were MIA last episode, so thank you once again for the people listening for putting up with me, just me, for an entire episode. But no longer. We got the whole squad back. We got Chase. We got Andrew back. And this is the 10th episode that we are recording. 1-0, we're in double digits, so thank you so much for the support. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week, but you know what? Without further ado, you've heard me talk enough last week. Let's just jump straight into what's going on.
So, we were – oh, sorry, Chase. I'm fine, Chase. You go first then. Gosh, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say –
okay, Chase,
unless you're sleeping under a rock, everyone knows that last week of college football was one of the craziest weekends of college football I can remember for a long time. And we had a lot of big matchups that were set up, and every single one lived up to the hype. There was not one disappointing game from 12 p.m. to 12 midnight. There was games that was must-see TV, and we're going to break down each probably the biggest ones that we know this past weekend. So, Andrew, actually, if you want to go and start, you had a 3:30 kickoff that turned out to be a primetime Big Ten banger. Andrew, break that one down for us.
So, yeah, the 3:30 kickoff game that I was hoping I could carefully analyze today was the Red River rivalry, but that game was nothing short of a crap fest. So here we are.
I lied, except for that one. That was the only one that disappointed.
Yeah. Prayers up to Georgia, by the way, because they're going to have a bloody good old time against Texas this upcoming Saturday. But let's talk about what happened in Southern Cal. Penn State, they had to travel 2,500 miles across the continent on this road trip, to the new Big Ten opponents. Now, the Nittany Lions, they spent most of Saturdays playing from behind against Southern California, and thanks to several clutch throws by Drew Aller, a few key defensive stops, and one of the greatest games by a tight end in FBS history, the Nittany Lions can make the long trip home with their unbeaten record and national championship dreams intact. Now, Tyler Warren caught 17 passes to tie the FBS single-game record for tight ends. Ryan Barker hit a 36-yard field goal in overtime, and number 4 Penn State rallied a 14-point deficit in the second half for a 33-30 victory over UC. Now, this came after Aller passed for a career-high 391 yards and 2 touchdowns, and despite 3 interceptions for Penn State, which didn't lead in the final 49 minutes of regulation. Now, the Nittany Lions came back 3 times to tie it in the final 20 minutes, the last on Nicholas Singleton's 14-yard touchdown reception with just 2:53 left. Now, I want to talk about Quentin Joyner, okay? He scored 2 early touchdowns for the Trojans. He played a phenomenal game, who had lost 3 of 4, and USC hasn't been a top 5 team since the Trojans held off number 5 Penn State in a 52-49 thriller in the 2017 Rose Bowl. Y'all might remember that because Saquon Barkley had the performance of a lifetime. Now, it's obvious that Penn State, they relied heavily on Warren, who racked up 224 yards and had a touchdown, even though his only catch after the third quarter was just a 3-yarder in overtime. But he matched the record, like I said, for catches by a tight end, and that was set by it was a New Mexico player back in 1967. So – and Warren, this was incredible. This was one of the best plays in all of college football last Saturday when Warren, he made his tight end catch in the third quarter at the end of a trick play in which Warren actually was the one that snapped the football to the backup quarterback, I think Bayu Prabula is how you pronounce his name, who then lateraled it back to Aller, who then threw the touchdown pass to Warren. So it was just absolute craziness. Now, USC's Kyron Hudson, he caught a go-ahead touchdown pass from Miller Moss with 5:56 left, but Aller converted 2 fourth downs with desperate passes to Julian Fleming, who also had a great game, before Singleton was left all alone for his tying catch. So this game in the fourth quarter, if y'all guys didn't catch it, it was just constant back and forth between the final 5 minutes, which is what made it one of the most exhilarating games. And now, so Penn State couldn't score a touchdown in the first half, but got rolling with Aller's touchdown throw to Warren. And the Nittany Lions then made a 90-yard match to tie the game moments later with Kate and Allen taking it in. And this is what I think, to me, just makes – this is why they always say, and I think the saying is true, the best college football game is always better than the best NFL game, because absolute madness takes place. Because like I said before, the Nittany Lions, they trailed most of this game in the first half. But then within the final moments of the fourth quarter is when they started to gain all that momentum, took it all the way in overtime. Such a big win for Penn State to go on the road against a chippy USC team who's got Miller Moss behind center, who has been incredible all year, but USC now drops to 3-3 after having a very hopeful start to the season. So we'll see how they begin to rebound as they roll deeper and deeper into Big Ten competition. But Chase, before I want Jake to go last, because Jake had potentially the game of the year that he's going to cover. But Chase, you're going to talk about another overtime thriller that took place between two of the juggernauts in the SEC over in Death Valley. So how did that game go?
Well, if we all remember last year when LSU and Ole Miss faced in Ole Miss, Oxford, Mississippi, we remember one of the most high-powered offense bangers of last season. 55-49 was the final score last year as Ole Miss took down the Tigers. And Ole Miss's offense had over 700 yards during that game, which is like unthinkable even in college football. So, of course, when the number 9 ranked Ole Miss Rebels traveled to Baton Rouge, Death Valley to face the number 13 LSU Tigers, this was a matchup that was highly anticipated, as people expected it was going to be as high-powered offensively as it was last year. Now, however, offensively, that wasn't exactly the case. It was actually more defensively. It was still must-see TV. Now, here's some of the things I want to highlight.
I guess you're right. That's what you want to highlight.
Jake did, yeah. If y'all all who tuned in last episode, you saw Jake calling technically the upset, as Ole Miss was the favorite heading into this game. But a couple of key notes I want to highlight. Oh, my God. Garrett Newsomere. I always hate pronouncing his last name. I feel like I'm butchering it. But up until even just look at his stat sheet throughout the game, he had technically the worst game of his career. He still put up 337 passing yards, but he went 22 for 51, which is really horrible percentage-wise. And he targeted his favorite receiver, Kyron Lacey, 16 times, but he only caught 5 of his 16 targets, still got 111 yards, and caught a touchdown. Matter of fact, the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, he came out when it mattered. Okay,
they were not stat packing that game.
no,
they were like, not. Hope he catches it.
51 passes is ridiculous, by the way.
That's basically what it came down to.
22 for 51.
On the run, Durham only got 37 yards on 12 touches because running-wise, LSU was able to do nothing. However, on Ole Miss's side, Jackson Dart completed not great. 24 for 42 of his passes, a touchdown and an interception. But Bentley on the run got 107 yards and a touchdown on 11 rushing attempts. So they did better on the run, which took some pressure off of Jackson Dart. Now, if you watch the game, Ole Miss really had control all throughout the game. They had the lead all the way up until overtime. They forced 2 interceptions off of Jackson Dart. So defensively, they were sound, and they started to produce offensively, especially on the ground. But it wasn't until the final minutes of this game that this game completely flip-flopped. Now, this was my favorite part of the game. It was 4th and goal at the 25-yard line. 4th and goal at 25-yard line. This was the last chance for LSU to pull off an upset. I say upset because it wasn't technically an upset, but technically it was.
It's hard to win in Death Valley. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, not if you're LSU, but Ole Miss, yes, it's hard to win in Death Valley. So 4th and 25. No, I'm sorry, I completely read that wrong. It was not the 25-yard line. It was at the 15 or 19.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. in final seconds of the game, he hits Aaron Anderson on a 4th and goal to tie the game and force overtime. Now, here's something I really want you to highlight. Nissemeyer, as I'm just gonna call him Garrett. Garrett, as we just saw, was having the worst game of his career. But his final 2 passes were the 2 passes that mattered. To Anderson to tie the game, and then Ole Miss drove down in overtime. They kicked a field goal to take the lead. First play of overtime at the 25-yard line. Remember, his previous pass was to Anderson to tie the game. His next pass was to Kyron Lacey to win it, to send Death Valley into a frenzy to secure the 29-26 overtime win.
By the way, real quick, can we talk about that was some of the worst defensive coverage I've ever seen in my life in the overtime catch? 2 of them are on the ground. And I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Look, there was a cornerback and a safety that was in the receiver's general facility, and all the receiver had to do was turn around, catch it, and he's in the end zone. There was 2 players in the vicinity, but no coverage on the actual receiver itself. It wasn't even a 50-50 ball. It was just a 100% ball to the receiver. Made 0 sense. It was ridiculous.
Obviously, I picked the LSU game because I wanted it. I still fully believe, and it seems like I'm going to be correct, that Ole Miss is going to miss the playoff. But we'll talk about that here in a second. But anyway, I was like, I want LSU to win because this was my game that I picked, and I was like, oh my God, what the crap was that defense? It overshadowed the great catch to win the game. I'm like, that was the worst defensive coverage I've ever seen in a game-breaking moment. I was like, oh my God, if I was that defensive coordinator, and
that's the weird thing. It's the whole game was so defensively sounded for Ole Miss that their corners and safeties were doing their job. I mean, but okay, then again, if you're like a safety and you had to cover 51 passes in regulation, surely he was probably exhausted. But that's not an excuse. True. That's not an excuse when you're 5 feet from the receiver and you don't even put your hands up. It's ridiculous.
They're probably can y'all run the ball, please?
That'd be such a boring game for the running back.
The hard part about the game is that, like y'all just said, Jake, you're absolutely right. The defense played sound the entire night, but then Garrett's last 2 passes of his 51 happened to be the game time play and the game winning play. So you have to wonder just what went wrong in the secondary, those last 2 passes from Garrett, because they were playing just fine. And, Coach, why am I blanking on his name?
Brian Kelly?
Coach. Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin and
Brian
Kelly.
He was sick. He looked sick because they were a play away
from
winning this game.
How do you know?
And Jackson Dart, I don't know if y'all saw Jackson Dart's press conference, but he
looked like this. He looked like this.
Yeah.
And he was trying to have a Luke Skywalker moment. He was like, they asked him, they're like, how is Ole Miss going to make the playoffs? He goes, well, we got to win out. We got to win out. That's the only option. It's the only option. We got to win out.
We know that. It's obvious, okay? You don't have to state it. We know.
Yeah, what a stupid answer. It's
obviously.
So, Jackson Dart, not a very good game tonight. What do you think you can do to be better? Win games?
We got to actually win when the clock hits 0. We have to have the lead.
If that's your mindset 7 games into the season, what were you thinking at the start of the season?
Yeah. What was your game plan in week 1?
Yeah, the ones that winning games week 1. Week 1 that wasn't the original game plan, but 7 weeks in the season, we gotta win games. I mean, we just have to.
It's so dumb. The questions that they give them, they make them sound so stupid because they're stupid questions. Hey, so what do you think makes a successful, college career? It's like I throw footballs, the guy catches them, we score a touchdown and win games. What do you want from me?
Look. Looking at these professional reporters asking questions, I'm like, that's all I got to do? Anyone can get in this field, apparently. That's all I can go out there and ask these same questions that these professionals are asking.
It's like being a weather person. You don't have to be right.
Yeah, exactly.
Just guess.
You got to sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like, it's going to rain today, and it doesn't. Well, hey, at least it didn't rain. Sorry.
At least we had a bright and sunny day, but I'll tell you who didn't have a bright and sunny day, and that was the Ohio State Buckeyes. Jay, we thought Georgia and Alabama was game of the year, but we might have another game on our hands that's in contention. What happened in Eugene, Oregon, Saturday night?
So I'm not even going to go over the entire game just because it was literally the exact same game for both teams all the way until the very end. So, I mean, this is Ryan Day and Dan Lanning, and poor Ryan Day, who I feel like is always in the hot seat. I don't think there's been a year that he hasn't been in the hot seat. And it's kind of like the whole thing with anybody in the SEC. It's like, if you don't beat Nick Saban, you're on the hot seat. There's just that team, and for them, that's Michigan, which this year I think they'll do that pretty well. But hopefully, it's so even in this game, I'm like, man, this is Dan Lanning. Ryan Day. I'm sorry, Ryan Day. He's on a hot seat again. Now he's got to play Oregon, and Will Howard and Dylan Gabriel literally almost had the exact same game.
Yeah,
300 plus passing yards and 2 touchdowns. The only 2 differences is Ohio had 2 turnovers. One came early on, and the other one was a little later. But I just, like I said, it was haymaker after haymaker. It was big play after big play, and then you kind of started to slow down a little bit as, Oregon kind of got stopped right there on the goal line, which was huge for Ohio State because if that would have happened, they would have won the game single-handedly, and it wouldn't have been as close as what it was. But they managed to stop them. Had to kick a field goal, and then it got down to the last 10 seconds, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing happened. And this is the beauty of college football. This is the beauty of any game, is if you know the rules, it can really win you a football game.
Dan Lanning's a smart man.
I thought this was brilliant. I love Dan Lanning.
It was.
I think he is a hilarious coach because he wears that stupid utility belt around everything. I think that's the dumbest thing ever. But hey, it's yours and you got it, dude. Whatever. And he just had this idea, and it had to be practiced. So basically, here's what happened. If you didn't know, here's what happened.
Take us to school, Jake.
Ohio State snaps the ball. Everybody's on the field, and then at the last second, Dan Lanning kicks out one other person off the sideline and jumps into the game. Now you have 12 people on the field, which is a flag, which that is illegal. You cannot do that. Stopped the pass from happening. Here goes the flag. Now, for people that I guess didn't know, imagine the amount of Oregon players that were so ticked off that they had 12 people on the field. They were probably like, what the crap are you doing? Why would you just blow the game like this? But again, if you know the rules, there's a 4-second runoff. So in that, Dan Lanning's like, you know what? He can have the yards.
Yeah.
Because I'm confident in my defense, but I want that time. Give me those precious little seconds that it's going to take to win the football game. I want those few seconds. Got the few seconds. And then again, this was the biggest blunder ever. Will Howard.
He's such an idiot.
Honestly, time management. I understand you're under a lot of pressure, but have an internal clock and just be 6, 5, 4. As he's pump fakes with 3 seconds left and takes off.
And it's no timeouts. Zero to no situational awareness.
So here's two things. One, Will Howard, you could have had a chance to throw a bomb, and that could have happened absolutely if you had a little bit better time management. So I don't think I put that on anybody but Will Howard. I'm sorry. Yeah. I know, kid, it's a lot of pressure. I can't imagine what you were probably feeling in that moment, but you messed up. You could have handled the game a little better. But here's really the question, because immediately after this, went to the post-game interview, and they asked Dan Lanning about this call. And he didn't not say that it was planned.
But
we all know that was planned and that was the thing. But immediately after, I don't even know if y'all know this, the NCAA is now making a mid-season rule change about that, which I totally agree with, because you don't want people to exploit it. It was kind of like the tush push.
The tush push too, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the tush push. Do you remember when that first came on and the Eagles did that, and then everybody did it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was broken. It was a broken play in the system.
It's a broken play. So it's kind of the same it's a broken concept within the game of football that the NCAA fixed. So here's my question for the both of you.
Yep.
Was it smart for him to use it, or did he do it too early? Because he probably could have used that. Watch this same situation happen, and it's like the quarterfinals.
Yes.
So it's a very interesting thing because you had to rely on something first. You had he intentionally put 12 men on the field, and I think the main focus behind that was because Ohio State had a certain receiver. I can't remember which receiver in particular who was dominating the game. So what Dan Lenny wanted to do was put an extra man on the field to
make sure he was covered.
Yeah, to make sure he was covered and get the penalty. But then imagine if Ohio State would have thrown a 15-yard reception to somebody else and then got the extra yards afterwards. So Dan Lanning also had to make sure that the coverage was going to be sound, or was going to be secured on the other receivers just to avoid
Jeremiah Smith.
Maybe, yeah, I think it might have been. So Dan Lanning, it was kind of a high IQ play to do it, but he was also taking a massive risk. But that's what Dan Lanning does, and Dan Lanning did it. I think that win proves not only a big key win for Dan Lanning, but it also proves to all the naysayers who were doubting Oregon and if they could compete in the Big Ten, because they just took down the Big Ten juggernauts in a very, very, phenomenal game. But yeah, I think in hindsight it was smart, and Dan Lanning accomplished what he had set out. But again, it was a big risk that just so happened to land in Dan Lanning's favor.
I think you have to look at the situation of this game because, like you said, heading into this game, there was a lot of question marks around Oregon. And it's only because Dylan Gabriel and that Dan Lanning offense wasn't as powerful as everybody was expecting heading into the season. So I think Dan Lanning knew that this was his opportunity to turn a lot of heads, because we all know how good Ohio State was, especially defensively. Heading into the season, everybody thought Ohio State was going to have the best defense in the NCAA, and though statistically it hasn't been the best, it's obviously been a top 10, top 5 defense in college football. So this was a tall task for Oregon and Dan Lanning. It was in front of the home crowd. It was prime time. It was college game day. So I think in this situation, Dan Lanning knew that this was a game that they had to win to turn heads, to prove to everybody this is a national championship contending team. So in this situation, I think, like you said, he wanted an extra man cover. He had that safety back, so he couldn't go deep. And because of the 4-second runoff, he was betting on the fact, okay, Ohio State has one timeout. What has to happen is they have to get in at least field goal range, which was still a couple yards away, because I think he was bet on the fact that I don't think this kicker's going to make this field goal. But he also thought that if they don't get in field goal range, they'll have to take a shot, which would leave them with 2, 1 second, or even no time on the clock. But then they did what nobody thought they would do, and he stepped out of the pocket, ran a couple yards, and slid, and didn't give them enough time to call a timeout. So it was definitely a risk, but at the same time, it was a risk Dan Lanning was willing to take, and it turned out to work to perfection. But like you said, Jake, now that he used it here, he can't use it again because it's a rule now. It's against the rules.
Yeah.
But I think he also kind of betted to the fact that he's probably not going to be in this particular situation again, so he probably won't have to use his strategy again. It might have been just a one-time scenario, so I like the fact that he decided to use it now, and kudos to him. The biggest IQ play we've seen in a long time, and it worked out to perfection, so kudos to him. It got Oregon the win, and now they're number 2 in the nation.
Yeah, it's a great, I don't know if you want to call it an exploit of the rules or just understanding how the game of football works. I love when moments like this happen. There was a moment kind of not similar to this, but it was like another exploit of the rules in the NFL. This was several years ago, where I think there was 5 or 6 seconds left in a football game, and they were Ravens and the Bengals, and the Ravens were kicking off, or they were punting to the Bengals. So the Bengals were like, we got one more shot at this. But what happened is they snapped the football, and then every person on the field just grabbed the guy that they were guarding and threw him to the ground. Holding, dragging, and massive holding calls. Flags were going everywhere. In the meantime, the punter's just holding onto the ball.
Yep.
And then he steps out of the back of the end zone and says safety. But they're up by 6 points. So they can have the safety, and by rule, with all the holding calls, it's no time out into the game and the game is over.
Yeah. Yeah, the
people were
runoffs.
like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Why did we not get time? And it's just knowing the rules. But now, like, that's changed because of that actually happening. So, I mean, again, but I love when rules like this are used. I love when they pop up. Dan Lanning had some balls to play it right now. And honestly, like, this could be the biggest game of the year for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could absolutely look back at the end of the season and go, this was the game that mattered.
Yeah.
And Dan Lanning, kind of had to put all of his chips in the middle of the table. And fortunately, it paid out for him. But I'm still confident in the fact that I think Ohio State is going to be the national champions.
Yes.
I'm not going to say they had a bad game because they didn't. I think this was the best that we've seen out of Ohio State this season and Oregon this season. But it's really a matter of what they're going to look like here at the end. Is Dylan Gabriel going to be as explosive as he was this game at the end of the season? Will Howard figure out how to read a clock? We'll see that at the end of the season.
Well,
and it's like
I guarantee you that. Well, I was just going to say, I guarantee you that Will Howard's going to take a mental note of what happened in that game, and he's not going to let a screw-up ruin their season because Ohio State could easily win out. And maybe we could see Ohio State and Oregon meet again in the Big Ten Championship. That's a very likely possibility.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a great game. It was an awesome weekend. Had a lot of good moments and everything. And one of the things that I wanted to mention, the fact is we were talking about it, the Ole Miss game, and talking about Jackson Dart, and he was like, yeah, we got to win out now. It's like, yeah, you do. You got to play Georgia.
Yeah, welcome to reality.
Yeah, you got to play Georgia. So,
what? Does Ole Miss, they don't play Bama. Does Ole Miss play Bama the rest of the season?
They don't.
They play Florida, and then they play I think they play Georgia, then they play Florida.
They had somebody else. I think they still have to play A&M, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had guy face A&M, which they've been a team on the search. But I do want to shift. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just don't want to shift over to what we have to look forward to for this Saturday. And if anybody was in a wedding this past weekend or is in a wedding this weekend, God bless your soul. But I'm going to have fun watching these games.
Yeah, don't go to the wedding. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, look, we'll understand. Look, I'm sure the bride and groom will understand. But let's talk about
their fault for booking it on a Saturday. Okay?
For real, like they should have. Nobody in their right mind should be booking a wedding. I don't care how much you love each other. It's Saturdays, and Saturdays are meant for football during the fall. Just keep that in mind.
It's criminal.
Yeah, but listen, Bama, listen. For all the screaming and weeping and gnashing of teeth, the Alabama offense is still terrific. Okay, it might be stalled a bit too much. It seemed to punch itself out in the first half of the Georgia game, and the running game isn't being utilized enough. But this is still a high-powered attack that can score in a flash. And yes, Jalen Milroe, like him or not, he deserves to be in the Heisman chase. He has been terrific, averaging over 11 yards per throw with 12 touchdown passes and just 2 picks and 11 rushing touchdowns in just 6 games. On the flip side, the Tennessee offense hit a snag, okay? Oh, sure, it was all sunshine and rainbows against Kent State and Chattanooga. Who cares? And it even ripped apart what turned out to be a bash against NC State's defense. But it struggled over the last 3 weeks with a passing game that hasn't hit over 200 yards in SEC play. The explosion has gone bye-bye. Now for Tennessee. Okay, yeah, something isn't quite right with Alabama. We saw it in the game against the Gamecocks. But listen, Cocktober is real, okay? So don't be too surprised about that. But again, for Tennessee, the offensive is fine. It's not consistent, and there's a borderline criminal negligence at times when it comes to the running game, but that's not the issue. All of a sudden, the Bama D, they can't get off the field. They're getting fatigued. And everyone remembers the end of the Georgia game, but it's been more of a steady dip issue for a full-down meltdown for Tennessee. Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia were able to connect 67% of their third down tries, and South Carolina hit their third down attempts at 50% clips. Now, Tennessee is second in the nation in third down stops. The defense overall is second in the nation, and the plays in the backfield continue to flow. So, yeah, the defense hasn't been quite as dominant as it was over the first part of the season, but it's still doing a great job of keeping the points off the board. So, here are my thoughts for how this Tennessee-Bama game is going to go. The Tennessee secondary and pass defense hasn't exactly been exposed, but there's a problem. Taylon Green of Arkansas went off for 279 yards, and the combination of Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway cranked up for 223 for Florida and hit the bowl D for the first multi-touchdown game of the year. Alabama, they might be struggling, but it can still bomb away. The Tennessee offense will perk back up. The Milroe will be fantastic and a blast of a game that won't take a backseat to anything in the SEC, including a tussle in Austin. So for that being said, give me a high-powered, high-scoring, instant classic yet again in Tennessee, but there won't be any goalposts going into the Neyland River. Alabama's going to win 34-30.
All right, Chase, hold on. On 3, me and you are going to say who we think is going to win this game.
Okay.
All right, ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. Alabama.
Alabama.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we all agree.
I just wanted to make sure.
Sweeps
Do
the
we
board.
think, Andrew, do you think Jalen Milroe is a top 3 Heisman candidate?
Oh. Yes. I had Boise State's running back at number 1. I'm sorry. Other way around. Sorry. I have Travis Hunter at number 1, Boise State's running back at 2, and I will give the 3rd spot to Jalen Milroe. I think so.
Travis Hunter?
Okay. Oh, listen. Okay, as dominant as Boise State's running back has been, are you going to put him over? Listen, are you going to put him over a guy that is top 5 in 2 different positions? I don't think so. I don't think so.
I agree with you with Travis Hunter, but I have Aston Jaunty number 1, Cam Ward number 2, and then I put Travis Hunter number 3. But Cam Ward leads the whole league in passing yards. He's got to be number. He's got to.
You're right. Okay, give Cam Ward the 3rd spot, and I'll put Jalen Milroe at 4. You're right.
Here's
right
my
about
thing.
that.
I definitely think that record matters. I know that one person can't change an entire team, but if Colorado struggles this much with having 2 dogs on their team, it's kind of hard because I was listening to the thing because they were talking about Cam Ward being the Heisman winner, and they're like, well, they're going to look at the fact that Miami's undefeated.
Yeah.
6th ranked team in the nation. Let's look back at the last 5 years of Miami. I mean, they were dumpster diving the entire time.
Yes.
So it's this Cam Ward comes in and just kills it, and now they're 6-0, and now they're a top contender for the ACC, and they're more than likely at this point going to have one of those 4 spots. They're going to look at that. Look at the dog over at Boise State. That's jaunty, nasty. I mean, that team has flipped on its head. They're winning games now.
I love how you
turn on Colorado because they talk about it all the freaking time. And yeah, you have 2 great guys who very well could possibly number 1 and number 2 in the NFL draft, which is bizarre. Think about that. But that is happening.
I love how Jaunty stands in the backfield like Michael Myers. He stands
he just stands straight up.
I mean, that's what he does before he gets the ball.
He's not on his knees. He's not getting a little ready.
No athletic position at all. He's just
I'm going to freaking murder somebody if they stand in front of me.
He is oh my gosh, scary freaking dude to stand in front of. But I don't think Travis Hunter, I don't. And
look,
he very well could be. But
I don't
know.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that thought process at all. I'm not disagreeing with anybody that would have him over Boise State, but this is over Travis Hunter. But this is completely random. Did y'all know that Jim Harbaugh had more career rushing yards than Bo Jackson? Makes no sense. I just found that out. Sorry, that had nothing to do with what we were just talking about. It just popped in my brain.
Must have cheated back then too.
Maybe. I don't know. There's probably some kind of sign stealing going on. But he was way ahead of his time.
There's a whole documentary on it. It's on Netflix, by the way.
And I'm gonna go watch it because I forgot about that. But thanks for reminding me. I want to just watch it. That's got to be hilarious.
I have 2 shows I got to finish watching before I even get to that, and it's I got to get through. I got to get through this first.
Yeah, it happens.
Looking ahead till Saturday, I actually want to focus on a new kickoff game, and it's a big ACC showdown going on in Louisville, Kentucky, as the Cardinals are hosting the 6th-ranked, speaking of Cam Ward, the Miami Hurricanes. Now, here's the deal. This is why I want to highlight this game. If we looked at Miami these last 2 weeks, they are plays away from being 4-2 instead of 6-0. They a prayer that the officials reverse a Hail Mary call against Virginia Tech, and then I still don't comeback. It's controversial. It's very controversial. But then a miracle comeback against the California Golden Bears in the Calgorithm. So luckily for them, they are 6-0. They're number 6 in the nation. But this is a testy matchup ahead on Saturday against the Louisville Cardinals. And here's what I want to highlight. Miami right now is number 1 in the nation on total offense per game at 583 passing yards per game. Cam Ward, 20 touchdowns and over 2,000 passing yards with only 5 interceptions. And we remember Louisville just a couple weeks ago. They were in the top 25, but then a top loss against Notre Dame, which they lost the game because of Tyler So's turnovers early in that matchup. And then they
barely
Second.
They barely escaped Virginia this past Saturday.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. But before that, they lost a testing game against SMU. Okay. And then it took a late game comeback against Virginia to get them to where they are now. So there's a lot of question marks going on against this Louisville offense, but don't overlook them just because of their performance these past 3 weeks. They're still 21st in the nation on total offense per game, averaging 461 yards per game. Tyler So is still one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC, and they have a lot of weapons surrounding that offense, including running back Isaac Brown and receiver Ja'Cory Brooks, who's been one of the best receivers in the ACC. But then people forget how good they look defensively, because prior to that game against Notre Dame, they had, in my opinion, well, not in my opinion. In fact, it was a top 3 defense in the ACC, and it was their defense that kept them in that game against Notre Dame. Like I said, it was Tyler So's turnovers that lost in that matchup in Notre Dame. SMU, they just got overpowered defensively. Yeah, I just saw that. But Virginia,
what does that say?
Was the defense.
The Guardians beat the Yankees in extra innings. That's just sorry. I hate the Yankees. I just had to point that out there.
But it was the Louisville's defense that kept them in the game against Virginia, which led a late Tyler So touchdown pass to Jamari Johnson to help him escape the Cavaliers. So this is still a defense that keeps Louisville in games, and that is going to be key when they face the top offense in college football, quite literally the top offense in college football in Miami. Now, Hurricanes, Mario Cristobal. I've never liked you as a head coach. You are a great recruiter, one of the best recruiters in college football. But it's your on-the-field performance that's been questionable. If you didn't have Cam Moore in this high-powered offense, I don't think you'd be seen as a top coach in college football. That's my opinion. Now, Cam Moore, top Heisman winner, no doubt. Miami, top offense in college football. Louisville, what you're going to have to do to potentially upset the Hurricanes. Your defense has to continue to be sound. You have to limit the turnovers, because you look at the Notre Dame game, you look at the SMU game, you look at the Virginia game. What is a common factor? They took themselves out of the game early. It was early turnovers that put them in bad situations, and they had to lead a comeback to either win or almost win. Like Notre Dame, it was a late game comeback that could have been avoided if they didn't have early turnovers. Virginia, they wouldn't have to have a late game touchdown if it wasn't for those early turnovers. Limit the turnovers. Defense, continue to lift that offense. And if Tyler So can get back into the rhythm offensively, this could be a game that Miami loses. Now, do I think it's going to happen? I don't. And the reason why I don't is because I don't. Tyler So, he's been very questionable these past 3 weeks. And
so you could say?
That's a knee slapper.
That one word to knee slapper.
Woo!
Anyways,
Wire.
yeah. I think this is going to be a offense that's going to overwhelm Louisville's defense a little too much. Now, I do think it's going to stay close because Louisville is actually the only team in college football that has not given up a third quarter touchdown, FYI. So I think it's going to be close, but leading into the fourth quarter, I think Cam Moore and that offense is going to be a little too overwhelming. And I see Miami escaping Louisville with a 10-point victory. But before we get into our picks, Jake, what is your game you want to highlight looking forward to another banger on banger on banger weekend in college football?
I'm actually going to go ahead and make Miami pick right now.
All right, go.
Wow, that was that's a nice drawing.
49-36 is the best I could do with what I have.
That looks like the little horseshoe you get in the Lucky Charms. You know what I'm talking about? That's what it looks like.
Oh, dude, I'd kill some Lucky Charms right now for being for real.
The horseshoe's not even orange. It's just green with a star in the middle.
It's all I have a lot of color options.
My Lucky Charms.
It used to piss me off when other people would dig through the box and get only the marshmallows, even though I would do the same thing.
Honestly, that's the work of the devil right there. That's just
I was that guy.
Evil.
I was that guy.
I've repented of my marshmallow stealing, and I'm a new man.
I have not repented. I'm still
You know they
marshmallow snagger.
Do you know they sell bags on Amazon of just the marshmallows?
That's gotta be
You're telling me there's a guy that picks through the marshmallows, puts it in a bag, and sells it? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's separately. It's not like they make the cereal with the marshmallows. I'm sure it's added in separately. So just instead of it being separate, just take the marshmallows and just bag it up and sell it.
Hey, because that would be genius if someone was sitting there and individually putting bags of.
That'd also be disgusting. I don't want some grown man picking through a box of Lucky Charms.
I work for Kellogg's. Oh, cool. What do you do? I'm a marshmallow picker.
Hey, that's exactly what DJU is headed towards right now. That is his future.
He's going to be a marshmallow picker for Kellogg's.
Pick my marshmallows, boy.
Some grumpy guy laying on the couch, pouring Lucky Charms on his stomach and just eating the multi-grain parts and just picking away the marmarshmallows.
That's nasty.
Hey, DJU likes throwing picks, and he can start picking stuff for a living. So
yeah, for real.
Marshmallow picker.
Golly,
that sounds like a slur. It sounds wrong to say that, but
marshmallow. You're just a marshmallow picker. All right.
Welcome to
I'm gonna start saying that with just no context, and people are gonna be so confused.
Yeah, do that next time you go. Just next time you see people, just
pick my marshmallows.
Oh, man. What you call me? You heard me, dog.
Yeah.
All right.
Crazy.
We're moving in. Let's move on before this gets out of hand.
Before we get canceled.
Let's fast forward our clocks to 7:30 tomorrow. And honestly, thank goodness we're having some big games that are actually being played at night and not at 3 o'clock and noon. What the crap are we doing, NCAA? If it's a big game, have it at night. Okay, nobody has a bedtime. All right,
it's Saturday.
But anyway, 7:30. Yeah, for us, it's Saturday. Anyway,
people want to stay up and watch these big time games.
Anyway, but it makes me happy. That means I can get home in enough time to watch these games. But so 7:30 kickoff time. You have the University of Georgia. Got the Bulldogs going to Texas. Hook them down, whatever your preference is, to go play the number one team in the country, Texas. Now, odds on paper, you wouldn't believe how heavily favored Texas is. And it's crazy because if we look back at Georgia in the last 3 years, you're talking just utter dominance in the entire NCAA. And now, coming into this season when they're already at a one-loss, Georgia team, they're going to – I fully believe they're going to be in the playoffs, but they're going to be – they're not going to be in a bye. I think they're going to be a lower-ranked seed, which is crazy.
I think you're right.
So if you're a top 12 team and one of your random little teams is in there, it's like March Madness. Your number one is playing your 64.
Right.
And it's like that's pretty much what's going to happen. I'd say if Georgia loses this game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But we know Carson Beck can do it. We know ETN has got the game to run. We know that Kirby Smart has a plan, and we know that he's going to execute that plan very well. He's shown it all season. Even when he was down in Tuscaloosa, he fought all the way back to lose narrowly, might add, but he still found a way to get his guys.
Right.
He still found a way to get Carson Beck to lead his team to taking the lead when nobody else thought that was ever going to happen. So never count them out. Now you got to go to the other side. Who's going to be starting quarterback?
Quinn Ewers, because he started that game against Oklahoma and just picked that secondary apart. So it probably will be the more experienced guy behind center against
100% agree.
Arch Manning has looked great, and he runs the speed of Tyreek Hill, surprisingly. But I think with Quinn Ewers, because Quinn Ewers has more of a veteran experience, I think they're going to go Quinn Ewers.
100% agree. 100% agree with you. But here's the thing that I would offer if I'm Texas. Now knowing that you have a good QB1 and almost, I'm not going to say equally as good QB2, but he's definitely up there. You have a very fast QB2 and a very inexperienced QB1. I would use them both.
Okay.
If I'm Texas. If you can find a way to make that matchup work and for them to do it kind of flawlessly, I would absolutely make that happen. But you got to look at the fact that Windsor, I think it's Quinn
Ewers.
Yeah, no. I cannot pronounce this kid's first name. I'm so sorry. But he's running back for Texas.
Oh, God.
Windsor, it's oh gosh, man. I don't even want to try.
Hold on. We're about to get a spelling bee school, hold on, let's see.
Let's make sure it's okay.
Quintrevion?
I think it's
Windsor?
Oh, is it Quintrevion Windsor? Okay, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, but yeah.
That kid's that is a mouthful. That kid's a dog. And then Isaiah Bond. Another dog.
Oh my gosh,
I think this is going to be such a great matchup. I think Georgia's defense is going to be a great test for Texas's high-powered offense, and then kind of vice versa. I think if any world Georgia wins this game, it's going to have to be on defense because we already know Carson Beck and Trevor Etienne, they can handle their side of the ball. It's going to be a matter of can Georgia's secondary manage to hold off Texas's wide receivers.
Yes,
that's what's going to matter. So. Think about it.
I'm thinking.
Georgia going into Texas.
Big SEC matchup.
Look,
we saw Georgia.
This means Georgia would be a 2-loss team.
And they still got to play Ole Miss late in the season. They still got to play somebody else. Tough scheduling.
I'm not going to act like Georgia Tech could beat Georgia, but this is going to be one of the better Georgia Tech teams that Georgia's going to have to face in recent years.
Here's what concerns me.
Georgia's got to go out of this game, whether they win or lose. They got to play Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee.
That's who it is.
Tennessee. I forgot about Tennessee.
And here's what concerns me. We saw it in that. Sorry, Jay. I just want to say this real quick. We saw it in that Mississippi State game. A very subpar offense for the Bulldogs team, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. But yet, so many times the Georgia corners would get beat by the wide receiver wideouts, and the secondary or the safeties would not be there to pick it up. And we see Georgia give up these deep plays, especially in that game against Alabama, and then against a subpar Mississippi State team. So, what do you think is going to happen when they have to guard guys deep threat wideouts like Isaiah Bond? And like you said, Jake, I don't want to call this a must-win for Georgia, but do you really want to go into those matchups against a scrappy Ole Miss team and then against a very solid Tennessee team with 2 losses? Because it almost feels like with such a tight race in the SEC, 3 losses are going to get you kicked out of the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I do really think this is a big game for Georgia. Well, because honestly, if Texas does not lose Saturday, they will go undefeated.
Yes, I agree.
Because they have to play Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and then Texas A&M. Now, Texas A&M is not a cakewalk. Texas A&M is not a cakewalk. Right. Vanderbilt, they had an amazing – I don't think it'll happen twice. That would be unbelievable. They should be in the playoffs. If they beat Texas and Alabama, they should be in the playoffs.
If they win out,
that's how I feel.
No matter what happens the rest of the year, we are playing you in the playoffs.
That's how I feel. But they got to play Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and the Texas A&M. And Texas A&M is not a cakewalk. They're not going to go into that game expecting a win. So this is a huge game for the University of Georgia. Question is, do we believe that it's big enough for Kirby Smart to give everything they got? And do you think it'll be enough to win the game?
That's what I think has to happen. The guy that everybody's pointing fingers at is Mike Bobo. And Mike Bobo did this last year. He likes to play the first couple of the games of the season very conservative, and then he doesn't open up the playbook until he has to. Because we look at the Alabama game, the first half, Alabama was sending blitz after blitz after blitz. And this is something Georgia hasn't faced all year, and they freaked out offensively, and it seemed like they had no answer. But then coming out of halftime, Mike Bobo must have said, screw it, I'm giving it all we got. And that offense ran so much better. They were moving up and down the field with ease. And then we look at that Mississippi State game, and it looks like Carson Beck's uncomfortable. It looks like his decision making is a little off, and you have to feel like part of that is because Mike Bobo was holding him back, so to speak, at the start of the year. So you have to realize that this is the point of the season. You can't be conservative. You have to make sure your quarterback, the engine of your offense, is comfortable and that he's going to be playing at full confidence. But because Mike Bobo is the way he is, and he's a conservative guy until these big game shows up or until they hit SEC play, is Carson Beck really ready? Is Carson Beck actually fully prepared to lead Georgia into a tough road game, a sold-out road game in Texas on the big stage to pull off a big road win? And I just don't know. It's something I feel like that first half is going to prove a lot about the game. If Georgia can hang around in that first half against Texas, then depending on how the offense looks, then we'll be able to look and see, okay, maybe Carson Beck is ready. Maybe they are prepared. But if not, Mike Bobo's seat is going to be on fire.
So listen, I know we got these game picks to get into, but this is all I got to say. Quinn Ewers played an Oklahoma Sooners team who may not be so great defensively according to statistics, but they ran behind a defensive-minded coach in Brent Venables. We saw how defensively sound he was at Clemson as our defensive coordinator, so we know the defensive mindset he's bringing at Oklahoma. But even still, Quinn Ewers was able to pick apart that secondary, what has been Georgia's biggest weakness on the deep wideouts, the secondary picking up the corner slack. So if Georgia does not get – screw Carson Beck, screw Mike Bobo, it's going to come down to, like Jake said, how the defense is going to play against a high-powered Texas offense. And I don't think it's going to play well at all. It's going to be high scoring. Carson Beck's going to get things done offensively like he has all year, which is why I have Georgia winning in an overtime thriller. Texas winning in an overtime thriller. Give me the hook 'em horns, 48-45 in overtime. Jake, flip the tablet. I want to see who you got.
I think Quinn Ewers is going to step back in. He's going to feel right at home. He's going to make some big plays. He's going to guide his guys all the way to the very end of this game. I think Carson Beck is hungry for another chance at a really big game. He was really close in Tuscaloosa. I think he's going to be more than close at Texas, and I think it's going to be just enough for the UGA Bulldogs on a big win at Texas. Texas, this is your first loss, Georgia. You're going to bounce back from a huge game in Alabama, and you're going to finally go back into your own. Give me the Bulldogs in a big upset win.
Hey, you called your shots last week.
Jake, I know you were on the roll last week, but I have to disagree because there ain't going to be no horns down. Quinn Ewers is the right guy for the job. Give me Bevo in the
what is
I don't know why I put Moo. I know they're not a cow, but what does a longhorn say?
Huh, what in the world? Why does Bevo have nipples? What is that?
Eyes, buddy.
Oh, eyes and a nose.
Hey, do you remember a couple years ago when Bevo almost killed Uga? That's going to be a representation of how things are going to go.
This time, Bevo is going to kill Uga.
I agree. I have to agree with that.
Well, we have spent a lot of time kind of catching back up after missing a lot of stuff last week. So we're going to go into this week's picks. We're going to pick them very, very quickly. This is going to be the only week that we do this. Very little explanation to your picks. You get 10 seconds
Lightning round. Let's do it.
Here we
Let's
go. Number 2 team in the country, the brand new number 2 team in the country. 8 p.m. Oregon at Purdue. Give me the Oregon Ducks. I don't need to explain very much. Dylan Gabriel is a dog. Dan Lanning is a dog. He understands the rules. Give me a win for the Oregon Ducks.
Look, Purdue, they have a history of upsetting top 5 teams at home. Boilermakers are going to run out of oil. Give me Oregon.
Give me Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. Quack, quack.
Quack.
All right, 10:15. Got to stay up late for this one. This one is actually happening here in like 30 minutes. So you have Oklahoma State at 13th ranked, undefeated 13th ranked BYU. BYU in a big win. I think BYU is going to make a run for the playoffs. Give me BYU in a big win at Oklahoma State.
Look, the Mormons have been very surprising in the Big 12 this year, and I think BYU keeps things rolling. Oklahoma State's kind of out of gas right now. Give me the BYU Cougars.
BYU is such a tough place to play, man. Give me the Cougars. They look incredible right now.
All right, 12 p.m. ABC Saturday. You have number 6 Miami going all the way and playing at Louisville. I'm picking Miami on this one. I still think Cam Ward still got it. I think the Miami's offense is a little too powerful, but don't be surprised if you get an update on your phone with it being a tied ball game with 5 or 6 minutes left. So give me Miami in a severely close win against Louisville.
Chase said it exactly right. He already made his pick. He picked Miami. Louisville's a testy team to play. Jack Harlow is going to be full of excitement. Give me the Cards, baby. Giving Miami their first loss of the year.
I love that. I almost did it. I love that.
Calm my upset, baby. Calm my upset.
I agree it's going to be close. I think Miami pulls away in the fourth quarter. Give me the Canes.
You know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to pick the Louisville Cardinals.
Let's go, Jake.
Hey,
Me and you are in this thing together, Jake. Come on. Use down, baby.
I'm staying alone. Always Canes down, though. Always Canes down.
Love the pick.
All right. You have a 4-2 Virginia going into playing at Clemson, a number 10th ranked team Clemson, which is super high for a one-loss team, especially how bad it was. But give me Clemson. I only think this one's going to be close.
Virginia is very lackluster. They've had a lot of close calls for their wins. I think Clemson's going to be in by 20+.
Cade Clemson's becoming kind of a dual threat quarterback, and that offense has been rolling. Give me the Titans.
All right, and crazy, interesting matchup. On Fox, 12 o'clock, Nebraska playing at number 16th, undefeated 16th ranked Indiana. Oh, I want to pick the Cornhuskers so bad. But I think Indiana's going to win.
Indiana's been very good, especially at home. The atmosphere in Indiana is going to be insane. I want to see Indiana stay undefeated and win the Big Ten, but I think the Cornhuskers do hand Indiana their first loss of the year. I hate to do it. I want to see Indiana win, but I am taking Nebraska.
It's tempting to pick Matt Rule and Patrick Mahomes 2.0, but the new head coach from JMU has come to Indiana, and he's brought that same energy. They look incredible. Give me the Hoosiers at home.
It's like what he said in the press conference. I just win. You can Google me. If you Google him, he does win. He's right.
All right, have a 12 o'clock kickoff. Auburn playing at Missouri. Missouri finally getting their one loss, which I think was going to come a lot sooner than what it did. I'm surprised they hung on as long as they did. Again, I think this is going to be one of those games where don't be surprised you get an update on your phone and it's a close game down to the final minutes. Auburn has found a way to kind of have sneaky wins. I don't think this is going to be one of them, though. It could be close, or it could be a blowout, but I think Missouri is going to bounce back. Give me Missouri.
Yeah. I hate Thorne as a quarterback. I don't think he's good at all. Missouri bounced back pretty nicely against UMass. Give me Missouri, another good testy win.
This is a dangerous week to play the Tigers. Auburn still has that terrible quarterback situation going on. I think Missouri's going to win big.
Yep. All right, we have East Carolina at Army. Undefeated, 23rd ranked, 6-0 Army. Give me Army, man. I'm not even going to think about this one. Give me Army. Sloop.
Look, their Army's quarterback is an absolute monster.
He is. He's a dog.
He stiff-armed the mess out of a UAB guy last week. Army and Navy, both undefeated for the first time since the 1960s, both ranked in the top 25 since the 1960s. Give me the Army, baby. We're going to have an undefeated Army and Navy American Conference Championship game, baby.
That would be wild to have either Army and Navy in the playoffs. It could still happen. Army's going to keep rolling. Give me the Golden Knights.
All right, big game, 3:30 kickoff, ESPN or ESPN Plus or ABC. Alabama going a little north to play at Tennessee. Both one loss. Tennessee's one loss, 5-1. Alabama's 5-1, one loss. Big game for the Roll Tide. Big game for the Crimson Tide. Give me Alabama in a close one.
I already made my pick. Give me Bama.
I made my pick too. Angie said it all. Give me Bama.
All right. Number 12. I didn't even know it's number 12. Number 12, Notre Dame playing versus Georgia Tech. This is at Notre Dame.
Mercedes-Benz.
How bad I would have picked Georgia Tech.
They're playing this game in Mercedes-Benz, actually.
Oh, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Killer. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it says that. Yeah, they're playing this game in the bins.
It's gonna be a really home style game for Georgia Tech since it's in Atlanta. I do think Georgia Tech's a very good team in this ACC conference. Notre Dame, though, I think they're gonna get big, very, very close win. But give me the Fighting Irish.
Riley Leonard's looking better, but there's still a lot of question marks. I don't think Georgia Tech's triple option playbook is going to beat the Fighting Irish. They're looking a lot better defensively, so give me Notre Dame.
Something to notice, Notre Dame's star cornerback is out for the season with a hip injury, so that'll definitely affect them. It's just curious to how much it's actually going to affect them.
Wow, I'm still picking the Fighting Irish, though.
Me too. All right. This is on CBS or Paramount if you have either one of those. 3:30 p.m. You have a 24th ranked 4-2 Michigan versus a 22-5-1 Illinois. Michigan, I'm not even rolling with you. You know I'm a hater. I'm going to be a hater for the rest of my life. Give me Illinois.
Don't look at my sign, Michigan. It ain't working this year. I like your pick, Jay. Give me the Fighting Illini. Very sneaky Big Ten team.
I'm so aggravated watching Michigan, right? Illinois, in my opinion, still has the best secondary in the Big Ten. They're an interception machine. It's going to be too much for the Wolverines. They're going to be kicked out of top 25. Give me the Fighting Illini.
This is what you get, Michigan. All right. 5-0 Navy at Navy. Charlotte versus Navy. Give me the 5-0 Navy. I think everyone just picked Navy, so we're just gonna move right on.
All I got to say.
All right, you have a number 14th ranked Texas A&M playing at Mississippi State, a very lackluster Mississippi State. Texas A&M. Dude, I'm loving Texas A&M this season. For whatever reason, I'm on board with the Mike Elko, Texas A&M, College Station. Give me Texas A&M. Shout out, Dude Perfect.
Don't even give it to me. You know who I'm picking.
The defense looks incredible. Give me the Aggies.
All right, you have a number 8, 5-1 LSU playing at 7 o'clock on ESPN at Arkansas. Arkansas coming off a huge win. Could they beat LSU? No, sorry.
Actually, Jake, I'm going to disagree. I'm calling my second upset pick. I think Arkansas, back at home where they beat Tennessee 2 weeks ago, they're going to get another top 10 pick. The Razorbacks are for real. Sorry, I'm sorry if y'all wearing headphones. I'm so sorry.
You know how much I don't like Brian Kelly. I want to pick Arkansas. Garrett Nissenmeyer is not going to have another poor week. There's no way LSU is going to lose at Arkansas.
I was like, hold up.
Scrappy win against Ole Miss. Give me the Tigers.
Come on, Jake. I know you want to. I know you want to hop on this train with me again. Somebody. All right, I guess I stand alone. That's fine.
Okay, just because he's at Arkansas and I don't like Brian Kelly, give me Arkansas. I'm sorry.
No!
We are so stupid. You know, and that's the thing, like, if we're right,
we're geniuses.
We're going to watch this for years to come and just be like, I cannot believe this actually happened. You know what? I'm going to speak it into existence. Give me the Razorbacks to beat Brian Kelly one more time.
Personally, I would love it. I just don't see it happening. But personally, I would love it.
I don't either, but I just picked them. Okay, moving on. We have a number 5 ranked Georgia at 7:30 playing the number 1 team in the country, Texas. I've already made my pick. Give me the Dogs.
You saw my pick. Hook 'em horns. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. Hook 'em horns. All right, you have a 3-3 UCF at 7:30 playing a Iowa State, a number 9th ranked Iowa State, 6-0 Iowa State. Right now they're in the playoffs, and I think they're going to continue to make that climb. 7-0. They're going to beat UCF. Give me Iowa State.
I love Iowa State. Very testy Big 12 team. They've proven to have the ability to win big games on the road. They're going to keep rolling. I love that they're finally in the top 10. Give me the 9th ranked Cyclones.
Iowa State is a very underrated team to watch. It's so much fun watching that offense flow. They're going to get the road win at UCF. Give me the Cyclones.
All right. You have a 17th ranked 5-1 Kansas State playing at West Virginia University. Pat McAfee, this is your guys. I already know he's going to pick West Virginia because I feel like he has to at this point. It's either like this is the hill you got to die on, so you got to come what comes with it. I think this game's going to be closer than we all think it is for whatever reason. I got this funny feeling that I think it's going to be a close game. I think Kansas State is going to win by maybe a field goal.
Look, if it's not Trayvon Easton, Pat McAfee is literally the heart and the pounding, beating heart of West Virginia football, but it's not going to be enough. I think Kansas State does get tested, but give me the Wildcats.
I love Avery Johnson, and I just realized I don't have an upset pick yet. So Country Roads, take me home. Give me the Mountaineers for the upset win.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It could very well happen.
Yeah, it could. All right, and then a brand new ACC matchup on the ACC network at 8 o'clock, the 21st ranked SMU Mustangs playing the Stanford Trees.
Cardinal. Yeah, Christmas trees.
Christmas trees.
It's crazy to think this is even an ACC matchup.
I'll never get used to that. Give me the Mustangs in a big win in their first ACC matchup against the Trees.
I like the ponies. Stanford, they've looked better than I thought they were, just not good enough. Saddle up them ponies. SMU's going to keep rolling. Give me SMU.
SMU's secondary looks incredible. That rushing game is unbelievable. Give me the Mustangs.
All right, that's all the picks. That's all top 25 that we have to go over. You got Alabama, you got Tennessee, you got Georgia, you got Texas. You got a lot of football to watch this upcoming weekend. You heard our picks, whether you agree with them or not. We picked some dumb ones, but they may not be dumb when they end up winning. Razorbacks, we're here for you. Andrew and I are. At least Chase can,
I'm standing alone.
He can
I'm
float
so
his
happy
own
to be on this island.
But hey, guys, thank you for listening. It's a longer episode. Appreciate hanging on with us for the 10th episode. This season is flying by ever so quickly. It's going to be funny when we have to talk about all the bowl games and everything. That'll be a super long episode, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But we have a couple more weeks to figure that out. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a fantastic Saturday. Hope you enjoy college football. Hope you're at home with some coffee or some tea with your family. Enjoy some time. Enjoy some football. And we will be back here next week talking about the same old thing. Peace up.
As always.
A-Town down.
Go Noles, baby.
Go Noles.